Welcome to F101 with Friends, your pit stop for all things Formula One. Whether you're here for the stats, the memes, or just figuring out what a chicane is, we've got you covered. Buckle up, because the fun starts right now. Hi everyone, my name is Nisha, a newbie F1 girlie who is desperate to make more friends so that I can talk about this sport all the time. Each week, a new guest will join me on this journey, from seasoned F1 fans to other curious newcomers, and we will explore what it is about this million-dollar sport at gravity-defying speeds that we just can't stop watching. We'll try to break it all down in a way that's fun, relatable, and hopefully try to explain some of the tech talk. So we just got done with the first race of the season at Melbourne, Australia, and it was an exciting one. This is going to be a bit of a time warp because I'm recording this post the race, but the rest of the episode with my guest was recorded post qualifying, so you will find some differences. But I just had to take the time and hop on and talk about what an amazing season opener we just had. It was wonderful that Australia brought the rains at such odd times. It completely threw all the teams off their game. They had to make quick changes about their strategy, about their tires. It was amazing to watch. And I can see there's been an evolution in Lando Norris. Earlier, if he'd started the race at the beginning, you had a feeling that he's going to bottle it. But he didn't. He stuck onto that lead and he took the race victory. It was tough, but he really did well. Max Verstappen from P2 came over to congratulate him. Remember this when the next Drive to Survive comes out. They are friends, I promise you. The race was chaotic in itself, with most of the rookies falling out at different points during the race, including Alonso. We also had Carlos Sainz, who had a little problem with his torque, and he ended up having too much power and was in the barriers, which worked out really well for his teammate Alex Albon because Carlos went back to the pit and was the new strategist for Alex. And we know what a master strategist the smooth operator can be. It translated into some great calls which earned Alex his P5. But more on the rookies, Ollie Behrman in the Haas had a tough start to the weekend, but he really did well to keep it on track today. I have to take a moment to talk about Kimi Antonelli. What a drive for a rookie. Mercedes is looking good. Toto Wolff is smiling to himself and smiling even more because Ferrari had an awful day. They started in the wrong place. They were giving too much information to Hamilton, not information that he wanted. It was very chaotic. Number of times he said, "Leave me to it, please," was a little bit concerning. Australia has never been kind to its home heroes. We had Jack Doohan in Alpine crash into the barriers thanks to the rain. And Oscar Piastri in his McLaren, who was doing so well, got caught out by this unexpected rain and slid into the grass. And he did end up in points, but he could have finished on the podium. Something not race related, which was kind of the highlight for me, was seeing Isaac Hadjar in the formation lap, spinning out into the gravel, hitting the barriers, being unable to race in his first ever Formula One race. And he came out and he was so distraught. He was crying. They brought him back into the paddock and he was greeted by Anthony Hamilton, that's Lewis Hamilton's dad, who hugged him, consoled him, let him know that these things happen and you have a very long career ahead of you and you're going to be fine. Which is so nice to see because Isaac really looks up to Lewis as a hero. So I'm sure that's a special moment for him. On the fun side, the Ferrari radios are back. And we heard Leclerc say, "Oh, can you please check if there was a leakage? My seat is full of water." To which his engineer replied, "Must be water." And Charles was very quick to come back with, "Let's add that to the words of wisdom," which I thought was hilarious. Of course, we also had tires just going off at all points of time because they were struggling to keep up with these changeable conditions. At some point, you even heard Martin Brundle say the words, "His tires are going off like last week's milk." God, as a person who is lactose intolerant, that one was a bit sour. Haha, I can also make jokes, Martin. So the top 10 standings as of now: Norris in his McLaren, Max Verstappen for Red Bull, George Russell Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes, Alex Albon Williams. I think there's a lot of great things that we can expect from them this season. Lance Stroll and Aston Martin getting those early points. Good for him. Also Nico Hulkenberg for Stake F1 team Kick Sauber. Then you have Charles Leclerc Ferrari, Oscar Piastri's McLaren, and Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari in the last 3 points position place. Very disappointing for the three of them. Speaking of disappointment, Yuki Tsunoda started off P5, ended up in P12, which is heartbreak for me as a fan. Seems like he was on the same strategy as whoever came up with stuff in Ferrari. And they pitted him too late during the rains, put him on wet weather tires when there wasn't that much rain. It was bad. He could have had some serious points today, but unfortunately he didn't. However, I would like to highlight that of all the Red Bull drivers, barring Max of course, Yuki Tsunoda is the only one who managed to stay in his car. Both Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson were out of the game. So, I don't know, Christian Horner, maybe you made a mistake. Oh, I almost forgot. F1 loves to make up fake curses and superstitions, and we have a new one. It is the Melbourne curse. Whoever wins the Melbourne Grand Prix will DNF the next year. DNF meaning did not finish. 2022, Charles Leclerc won in his Ferrari. 2023, he did not race. That year, Max Verstappen was the winner, and we saw how his car caught on fire last year. 2024, Carlos Sainz won after that appendix surgery. And this year, he DNF'd in his Williams. So this is a new curse, and maybe next year, Lando Norris will DNF? Who knows? Today, we will be getting you ready for the next race in Shanghai. And I'm joined by longtime F1 follower and Lewis Hamilton / Ferrari / Mercedes fan, Rahul. Welcome to the show, Rahul.
Thank you for having me. And so good to be a part of this, finally, after a long wait.
Yes, it's been a long time pitching, and finally I'm glad to have you on this episode. So, but just so that our listeners can get to know you a little bit better, what got you into F1?
Oh, so this takes me way back. I started watching around 1999, 2000, and like a lot of people in that era, I was drawn by the great Michael Schumacher. He was just on another level, dominant, relentless, aura of invincibility, and the way he drove just like spoke of complete dominance. But what really hooked me, apart from his sheer dominance, was his battles with Juan Pablo Montoya. Those two went like absolute gladiators, and Montoya was not afraid to send it at all. Like it was just a treat to watch, like for someone who's just been introduced to the sport, right? And that level of aggression, strategy, and just pure racing, like. I mean, no fancy strategies of today and this, that. Like, they were just neck to neck with each other. Like, it was impossible to look away. And here I am, obsessed decades later.
Makes sense. And I think this year will have more of that. Like, proper battles on track because the cars are so close. And yes, strategy is going to help them. But at the end of the day, it's all about the talent of the driver. So that should be fun to watch. And so, if you were at a dinner party with all of your favorite F1 drivers, what would you like to say to them?
First of all, I'd probably be too stuck to say anything coherent. But assuming I pull myself together, I'd love to ask Lewis about the races that nearly broke him. I know this is a very fresh wound for me as a Lewis Hamilton fan, but I would maybe speak to him about that dreadful night in Abu Dhabi and what he feels about it. And and if possible, and if we're going like completely wild on imagination, I'd maybe sit back and let Shumi and Montoya reminiscence about their legendary fights, like because they're talking and I'm just listening, right? So it would have been
that would be
crazy. And if Kimi is there, Kimi Räikkönen, I would just ask him, would you like another drink? Because let's be honest, that's the most interaction I'm going to get from him.
Yes. You know he's going to say yes to you.
Yeah.
Or, wah.
Yeah.
But that is awesome. Yes. Rahul, we are recording this a bit in advance of Shanghai. And we just saw Melbourne qualifying, right? Any initial thoughts?
Mm,
How do you feel?
it was kind of expected, unexpected, but I'm loving the midfield battle. I have my feelings for Liam. I mean, if I may be completely blunt here, he looks like Checo 2.0.
Oh my god, I was just gonna say that. Oh my god, after Free Practice 1, I think the Red Bull admin, they had put out like a poster saying, okay, Max P3 whatever and Liam P17, and someone had commented under that, close enough, welcome back Checo. And Red Bull admin liked that comment. I was like, what is going on? Is the
Yeah.
admin Mexican?
I think you're being too harsh on him though. Like, I mean, as much as I dislike Red Bull and Honor, but yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being completely candid with you and your listeners here. But yeah, I mean, give Liam half a season here. Like, come on,
I
don't
agree.
do a Pierre on him or a Albon here. Like, I mean,
Yep.
it's too soon. Too soon. Give him some time.
I see. The thing is, as a Yuki Tsunoda fan, I'm obviously not happy that Liam got the seat when Yuki deserved it. But given that he's in that seat, I do feel for him because, like we were discussing before, this year that car is going to be built entirely around Max, right? Even though they have denied it in the past, this year for sure it is going to be Max's car. And Max's car, not an easy one to drive.
Yeah.
So I do feel bad for Liam. I hope he's able to pick it up and maybe not be in the top 5, but at least bring in points for the team.
Yeah, he's gonna be that kebab mein haddi for a lot of teams. Like,
Yeah.
and that's exactly Checo 2.0. But let's just let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. It's too early, guys. It's fine.
It is.
Let him breathe.
For me, this qualifying was amazing because Yuki Tsunoda is on his revenge tour, and I love it because he took one look at, Liam Lawson in the gravel, P5, guys, deal with that. I love it. So it is an exciting season, and we are headed now into the second race of the season, which is in Shanghai. Here are some quick facts about it. In April 2003, a marshland in the Jiading district of Shanghai was earmarked to be the home of an F1 circuit. 18 months and around $450 million later, the Shanghai International Circuit was ready for action. The first race was held in 2004, and this race was on every calendar till 2019, when we had a break from 2020 to 2023 thanks to the pandemic. The race is contracted till 2030, so it's not going away anytime soon. Drivers will do 56 laps around this 5.451 kilometer circuit, which has 16 corners. The current lap record is held by Rahul's favorite, Michael Schumacher, with the record of 1 minute, 32 seconds and 238 milliseconds in 2004. This track has the longest DRS straight in the calendar, and the circuit is designed to look kind of like a Chinese symbol of Shang, which means going upwards. Last year, this was lit because the grass was chemically treated to look good, and the sparks from the bottom of the F1 car set it on fire. I think it was Yuki Tsunoda's car.
Yeah.
I think I remember that. Like, you're like, yellow flag. Why? Everyone's fine. The track is on fire. So that was fun. So Rahul, you've seen an image of the track.
Yeah.
How would you describe it? What does it look like to you?
It's definitely one of those circuits that test everything, like precision, patience, and straight line speed.
Yep.
That turn one is like a spiral, that it's like getting caught in a
Yes.
whirlpool. And if you mess up braking there,
Yes.
you're either running too wide or inviting someone to dive up the inside. So, and then you've
Yes.
got the high speed S's and the brutal back straight 1.2 kilometers of pure speed where DRS makes or breaks your lap. Like, to your point, right? It's a circuit with the longest DRS straight that there is in the entire calendar. And let's not forget the dreaded last hairpin where so many moves either go perfect or end in a heartbreak. So it's a great track, and I'm glad it's just back.
Yes, me too. And I was very excited to see it like last year, especially considering the number of fans that showed up there. It was so cool. So To me, the track, if I had to visualize it, looks a little bit like a wizard's hat, but it's on fire on the right side. So you can see all those flames coming out, right?
Correct.
That's how I would see it. The start finish point is somewhere in the middle of the slope of the hat, and it twists and turns around the flames and then rounds out on the rim of the hat with like your long straight.
I love the Wizards on hat fire analogy, by the way. Like, it
Yeah.
perfectly describes it. Yeah.
It's a great way to think about, like, I have been really trying to put these things into like everyday object perspective. For example, like, so we had called the Melbourne track like a chicken wing. So when I was listening to the commentary and Crofty was talking about, oh, turn right, turn 9 and 10, and I could immediately picture it. I was like, yes, that part of the chicken wing where I hold it. So that it really helps me. As you said, this track has a lot of precision. There are 16 turns, and Rahul and I are going to talk you through the track, right? The race begins with a 300-meter dash to turn 1, which is one of the most unique corners. It is a spiral seashell. It's a never-ending right-hander. It just goes tight and tight and tight. And it forces drivers to slow down so that they can navigate this curve. If you misjudge your braking, it's going to be really bad. Whoever's behind you who's done it well is going to overtake you. And I see this as a particular pain point for rookies because they're not going to be able to navigate that very well, and an experienced driver is definitely going to overtake. At the end of the spiral, turn 2 quickly transitions into turn 3, which is a slow left-hand corner where traction is crucial. The drivers have to balance the throttle carefully to set up for turn 4, which is a medium-speed right-hander. Here, again, you can watch out for overtaking because if someone is messing up the previous sequence, then it gives someone else a greater advantage.
Sector 2 is about maintaining momentum through the flowing corners. So it's basically the fire part of the Wizard's hat.
Yep.
And turn 5 is a straight left kink leading into turn 6. And a pointy right-hander where braking stability is crucial. So it's extremely crucial out here. It's easy to lock up here, and especially in wet conditions, which the Chinese Grand Prix has surprises in sometimes. But yeah, it's a very crucial turn 6. After that, drivers navigate the fast sweeping curves of turn 7 and 8, which sort of feel like you're driving through an S. Get them wrong, and you lose speed, heading left and left again into turns 9 and 10. These are two slower technical corners where drivers need to focus on a clean exit onto the next wave.
Finally, in Sector 3, the action ramps up as drivers enter turn 11, which is a sharp left-hander that then curves right into turn 12 and 13. We're basically turning on the brim of the hat. Next comes the huge 1.2 kilometer back straight, a DRS zones where cars can easily exceed 330 kilometers per hour. This leads into turn 14, which is a tight hairpin and one of the best overtaking spots on the circuit. The lap finishes with a sharp left onto turn 16, a deceptively tricky final corner where wheel spin can ruin a driver's exit onto the main straight, and we're back to straight finish.
Shanghai usually is in mixed conditions. The city is expecting rain the week prior, and it's definitely going to be a cloudy race weekend. With all the rookies in the grid trying this for the first time, like we just spoke about, I expect some chaos. Remember, this circuit was actually shut for a few years when the rookies were coming up, and more importantly, it's the first sprint weekend of the year, so their practice time is cut down even further.
Yeah, and I don't think Shanghai is on the F2 set of tracks. So even in the lower championships, they've never had a chance to experience this track.
That's going to be crazy to watch.
It is. So now that we have the picture of the circuit, the Wizard's hat on fire, allow me to take us on a sensory journey around Shanghai International Circuit. You're strapped in, hands gripping the wheel, the lights flicker red and go out, the race is on. You charge towards turn 1, a sweeping, tightening right-hander that feels like a whirlpool pulling you in. Your helmet presses against the cockpit as the G-forces pin you to the right side as you pass turn 2. Exiting the spiral into turn 3, the balance shifts and you're back on the brakes as you glide left into turn 4. The circuit opens up at turn 5 and you flick the car into the right hairpin at turn 6. Turns 7 and 8 arrive at a blistering speed as you weave through them. In turn 9, you shift down, hit the brakes hard, and you feel that seatbelt tighten as the car slows left and left again. Now, the true test. Turn 11 and 12 and 13 set you right on to the longest straight in Formula 1. You slam the throttle and the car rockets forward. The engine screams past 300 kilometers per hour, the wind roaring in your ears. And then hard on the brakes. You hit turn 14, the tight hairpin as you wrestle the car to the apex of 15. One last push. Turn 16, the final corner. The crowd roars as you power on to the main straight. The steering lightens, the car launches forward, and Shanghai vanishes behind you. On to the next lap, into the next battle. So, Rahul, how do you feel after that flying lap?
That was intense. I could practically feel the G-forces from here. Shanghai has a unique flow the Wizards had. It's like a roller coaster, but you're in control. Well, mostly in control.
Mostly, yes.
That back straight into the hairpin, that's where races are won and lost. And with these new cars, the rookies, the dirty air is going to make the following tricky. So setting up that last move is going to be an artistic move, if I may say. But I can't wait to see it all play out.
I know. I honestly, I feel like this is a chance, especially during sprint, for some of your midfield teams to gain some points. So I'm really excited to see that. I think that, I don't know, maybe Carlos is going to get at least a sprint podium. So it'll be fun if that plays out in Shanghai. So I want to take you back to when the Chinese GP started, right? So it was the early 1990s. The Chinese government began to seek permission to host an F1 race. Their first attempt in 1999 at proposing a track failed to meet the FIA standards and the race was cancelled. In 2002, the Shanghai International Circuit was announced and the management had signed a 7-year contract with the FOM, which is Formula 1 management, to host the Chinese Grand Prix from 2004. By April 2003, Hermann Tilke was chosen to design the track and the associated buildings.
Fun fact, he's the one of the approved track designers and was also working on the Bahrain circuit at this time. In fact, he is also the father of our beloved Indian Pudh International Circuit. But
which you've been.
Yeah, which I have been to. I was there at the first race. It was incredible. It was, Metal had won that race and and Mayawati was in the podium, which was and there were shouts in the crowd calling her BMW, which basically opens out to Benji Mayawati. So it was hilarious. It was I have never experienced in my entire life something like that where people were calling Mayawati BMW. But it was incredible. It was an incredible experience because before, we had pickup points in different parts of the city. We did not have to take our vehicles because parking was an absolute mess. It was the first race, right? So they had bus pickup points if you were a ticket holder from different parts of the city. Mine was from Nehru Place, which is South Delhi. And you know how South Delhi is. Yeah, and Vijay Mallya's entourage was there distributing, flags and merch because Force India was racing, on an Indian track. Right. They were like, oh, go Force India, go Force India. So, yeah.
Nice. Who were you supporting at the time?
So that time I was keenly following Vettel because, of course, he was leading the pack at that point in time, but my pull was actually to go and see Schumacher because he was still driving that Mercedes.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. So I got to see him on track. That was like a dream come true for me. Cool. So yeah. God bless Hermann Tilke. I have my reservations about him and his track designs. They're sometimes very, very orthodox and maybe very safe. But he brought the Grand Prix to my country. So yeah, I'm very glad. That could happen.
And we're here's hoping that it's going to come back and we don't call it entertainment and we call it sports, and F1 decides that it's worth coming back to India.
Yeah.
Going back to Shanghai, the site for the circuit is actually a swampland, and it previously used to be a rice paddy field. So there was a lot of extensive groundwork which had to be completed to construct the circuit. For 18 months, some 3,000 workers were on site daily to complete the facility. We went racing in 2004 and saw some great moments on track. However, this circuit was making a lot of losses. In November 2008, the BBC reported that a senior race official in China had suggested that the race should be cancelled. 2010, which is when the contract was supposed to end, came and went and no formal announcement of the extension was done. However, immediately after the 2010 Shanghai race, Bernie Ecclestone, of course, who manages the contracts with various circuits, said about the 2011 calendar, "We're not dropping anything. It's 20 races, getting ready for 25. Bernie predicted the future, our eccentric grandpa. So it was only in Feb 2011 that the deal was signed between F1 and the organizers of the Chinese GP. The reasons for the delay appeared to have been over the exorbitant fee that they had to pay to host the race. This apparently for the Chinese GP was supposed to be the highest fee, and they were racking up losses year after year, so the organizers felt like this was too much of a fee to pay. Of course, there was some secret dealing, secret contracts. That's just how it happens in F1, and the F1 bosses appear to have reduced the fee, and the new agreement to host an F1 race ran to 2017.
In 2019, they hosted the 1000th race of F1, after which they were shut for 3 years in the pandemic. I do like this track being back. It's a great watch. And since it's built on marshland, it means the ground is ever shifting. That's why over the years, we've seen more bumps developing. And with F1 not having been there since 2019, there's likely to have been more movement. Like last year, they did a complete resurfacing of the track, which included making the grass look greener than normal. It probably
Chinese
has to
stuff.
do. Yeah. We saw a lot of sponsors pouring in thanks to Shanghai's very own jargon, who used to drive for Kicksauber. He's now a reserve driver for Ferrari. And say what you want about the Italian team, they know how to bring in the money. So yeah, smart choice. I have one more fact though. I mean, which a lot of people have noticed about the Shanghai circuit. If you see the entire landscape on the starting grid, there were no buildings when it started, and now it's like a complete like, the background is full of skyscrapers. Like, if anything, that's a testament of how far this track has come, right? And how developed the nearby area has been. So yeah, just my 2 cents about it as well.
Yeah, of course. No, that's really cool. It is cool to see how quickly this track has come up and how many fans are pouring in, because like, obviously F1 also sees that, and I'm sure it helps that they also had Zhou Yu there, and bringing in people. Lenovo is a huge sponsor, so yeah, it's great. The Shanghai International Circuit and the Chinese GP have given us a lot of great moments over the year. The inaugural Chinese GP in 2005 saw Fernando Alonso in Renault lead from the start to finish in a slow burner race. The excitement came when there were 2 safety cars, one for Juan Pablo Montoya after he hit a drain cover damaging his tire, and another to clear the wrecked Jordan of India's Narain Karthikeyan. Even though these reduced the gap between Alonso and the pack, his driving that day was a testament to his adaptability and racecraft, which helped contribute to the first World Championship title for him that year.
In a masterclass of wet weather driving, Michael Schumacher secured his 91st and final Formula 1 victory at the 2006 Chinese Grand Prix. Something that I would literally never imagine at that point of time. But yeah, it is what it is. After losing his grip on the title in 2005, the next year he went head-to-head with Fernando. Starting from 6th on the grid, Schumacher picked up places in the opening stint before the short fuel stop, which we don't see anymore, with Alonso changing tyres. From then on, Schumi managed the changeable conditions and secured a win in his own classic style. The 91st Grand Prix win for the German meant that he was tied on points with Fernando, setting up the dramatic 2-race title showdown of 2006.
Yeah, so the Chinese GP was towards the end at this point of time. It's just different now that we see it at the beginning. I think that's a part of their F1 sustainability drive to sort of make sure that they do all the Asian races together. Also, speaking of championships, in his rookie season, Lewis Hamilton experienced a dramatic twist during the penultimate race at the 2007 Chinese Grand Prix. Hamilton entered the weekend after an incredible wet weather victory at Fuji, which had given him a 107 points haul and a 12-point lead over his McLaren teammate, Fernando Alonso. Alonso was at 95 points at this stage, and Ferrari's Kimi Raikkonen was at 90 points. Hamilton's task to clinch a rookie title was made easier when he took pole in Shanghai ahead of Raikkonen and with Alonso qualifying fourth. Leading the race and on the brink of securing his world championship, Hamilton's worn wet tires on a drying circuit led to a critical mistake. As he attempted to enter the pit lane, his car slid into the gravel trap, resulting in a race-ending beached car.
That was bad.
Sad. Can you imagine in your rookie season being a world champion? So close, so close. That would have been so cool for Hamilton.
Crazy. The 2009 Chinese Grand Prix witnessed a historic moment as well. Red Bull clinched their first ever Formula One victory in an absolutely wet downpour. The young Sebastian Vettel delivered a flawless performance, leading the race from the pole to the checkered flag. This triumph signaled the emergence of a new powerhouse in F1, which again I have reservations of, but anyway, at the beginning of a dominant partnership between Vettel and Red Bull, something that I also got to witness 2 years later at the Booth Circuit.
Yes.
While they might not have won that year, he and Red Bull went on to win the next 4 championships. So yeah, so I'm pretty sure Shanghai holds a very special place in Red Bull's memory. Like that's the start of their dominant career. So yeah.
True. Another fun moment with Vettel was when he was in Ferrari and Daniel Kvyat was in Red Bull, and Daniel had basically gone down the inside of Vettel in that first corner on the start, and it led to a huge collision between the two Ferraris, Kvyat on the outside, and Vettel obviously blamed the Red Bull driver. In the press conference afterwards, you can see like Vettel is talking to Daniel and he's like, "You came in like a torpedo," right? And that became Daniel's new name, the Torpedo. So I remember like after that conversation, they clashed again in the very next race. So to catch everyone up for the race this weekend, how about a quick summary of 2024? Now, this was the first sprint weekend of the calendar, and we saw Lando Norris at the front for the race after a rainy sprint qualifying. And so began the Bottler of the Year allegations as he gave up place after place to end up 6th. Max won the sprint from P4 with Lewis and Checo close behind. The Checo fans, of course, collectively screaming, "We are so back!" getting even more excited when he qualified P2 for the main race and ended up on the podium as well. Things went downhill from there for the rest of the season, but let's let him have this one victory as well.
Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso was not really set up for success when they put him on a different tire strategy and had to pit him early. Apparently, they didn't have enough tires left because of the sprint race. However, he fought like a madman that he is. And they caught at the fastest lap of the race. In the last few laps, as he was trying to protect his place, Alonso's car snapped at the final state, but he swiftly recovered to gain DRS. And that is the moment when you know what a great driver he is and why still teams want him at the age of 43.
43. I can't get over it. Like I see, even in the F1 titles, like they put Alonso and then right after that is Kimi Antonelli. And you're like, oh my God.
Why
these two are... yeah, exactly. But speaking of Aston Martin, at the Chinese GP, his teammate, Alonso's teammate, that's Lance Stroll, was causing all kinds of chaos as per usual. After the second safety car, Alonso sort of locked up on the approach at hairpin of turn 11. And there was a concertina effect with all of the drivers, had to brake hard to avoid the car in front. Stroll, however, did not get the memo, did not slow down in time, and fully crashed into the back of Ricciardo's Racing Bulls, who then crashed into McLaren's Piastri. This was super irritating for me because Daniel was on the cusp of points in that race and they weren't even going fast, right? So Ricardo has later said it's frustrating because it wasn't like it was a little love tap. He went right under the car. It was so annoying. I like, as a VCARB fan, it was, I could not stand to watch it. I was already so pissed off. And then Kevin Magnussen's Haas put Yuki out of the race a few laps after with a not so gentle tap in the rear. I was just like, fine, I'm switching off my TV. I don't care anymore.
Probably never liked that either. Yeah, the race wasn't as great for Alpine either when they called Pierre into the pits for a tire change. Pierre pulled away from his box sooner than expected before all 4 tires were fitted, causing an engineer to actually fall over.
Yeah,
While no major injuries were reported, Alpine was fined €10,000 after the race for the unsafe procedure.
The one person who was happy though was Chinese driver Zhou Guanyu, who experienced the thrill of racing in front of his home crowd for the first time, marking a significant milestone in his career and for Chinese motorsport fans. He qualified P10, which was something that the Sauber was just unable to do till then. And even though he didn't get any points, the organizers had a separate podium for him at the end, or as I like to call it, the Jodium. But thank you for laughing at my pathetic joke.
No, we have similar humor, so it's good.
Excellent.
No, I like Zodium. There is
okay, good.
Zing to it, huh? But anyway, I can go on.
Yes, I like how you made it worse. I thought this was very sweet of them. And you can see how much it meant to him because he saw all the support of the Chinese fans and he like fell to his knees. He was crying. It was such a beautiful moment until you saw the shot of like these 3 cameramen on him. Like he's on the floor crying and there's like 3 people just recording the entire thing. It ruined the moment a little bit, ruined the illusion a little bit. But yeah. I'm happy for Zhou. The Shanghai Circuit is known for its unique combination of long straights and a variety of corner types, so demanding a very balanced car setup. The weather is unpredictable, so you will see a lot of fun moments on the track. Teams usually opt for a medium to low downforce configuration to maximize the speed on that back straight, but at the same time ensuring sufficient downforce to navigate all the technical sections. I think McLaren has a decent chance with their low drag package and the engine that gives them the speed on the straight line. But I would not discount Max and his Red Bull, especially if it starts raining. The biggest challenge for Ferrari would be all the twisty bits on the track. If they can nail that balance, Ferrari could challenge the leaders, especially with these new driver dynamics. Any thoughts? Anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, you pretty much summarize as well. I'll just add to say the weather is going to be between 16 to 22 degrees with overcast with a possibility of light rain. So most teams can go for a 1 or 2 stop strategy and they have to keep in mind that they lose at least 23 seconds coming out of that pit stop. But this race also has a 75% chance of a safety car and a 50% chance of a virtual safety car. If the rains return, we may see teams holding out to change to wet weather tires at some point. So just to summarize what you've said, it's going to test everyone very differently. McLaren's low drag package, and based on whatever we've just seen at Melbourne, should make them quick on the straights, but those technical sections can maybe challenge them.
I hope
Ferrari, if they can manage their tire wear and not get caught on the twisty bits, could be in the mix as well. And then, of course, Red Bull.
Yes.
If there's ever a hint of rain there, Verstappen is going to be an absolute monster.
I can imagine everyone in the Red Bull pit wall just doing like rain dance.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm actually looking forward to how the rookies handle this, because they haven't raced here based on what we've discussed. And it's a sprint weekend, so their learning curve is going to be brutal, but it's going to be fun to watch.
In the first half of the season, the Shanghai race is definitely going to be one of the more exciting ones, like especially because there's 6 rookies. None of them have any idea how to deal with this. It's going to be, if nothing else, like even if they don't qualify like very in front or wherever we expect them to qualify, During the race, it's going to be chaotic. And if they turn out to be like back markers, right?
Yeah.
For all the leaders who are trying to lap them, if you see a rookie in front of you sliding around, it's going to ruin your race as well.
Absolutely.
So that will be fun. Last year, around 200,000 fans turned up for the event, which is a max for that circuit. The spectators had some inventive signs and costumes, which quickly became like meme sensations.
Yeah.
I remember there was a fan who was dressed in the banana suit, referencing Charles Leclerc. When he was, I think during the pandemic, he had these live stream things. He put on the suit and he was like, oh my God, I've never looked so good.
I remember Oscar Piastri claiming to be 1/16th Chinese.
Oh my God.
So that he can call his home race. Like, I mean, he's Aussie, so I expected that kind of humor. That boy is quite funny.
He is hilarious. He was going around trying to make every race his home race.
Yeah.
So, also, this was the first race with Nico Rosberg as the commentator, and he was brilliant. Yes, okay, he was clearly hating on David Crofty, but...
We know why.
Yeah, of course. Rosberg's insights were beautiful because Nico could actually comment on the driver's abilities, the moves they made, on team strategies. And also, it was funny to see his own name turn up on the stats. Like, every now and then he'd be like, oh, fastest lap, it's me. That was funny.
Yeah. Shanghai is also the first race of the season for the F1 Academy. So, guys, whoever's bought the tickets to this race is definitely getting their money's worth.
I know, right? You get to see so many you get to see so many practice sessions, sprint sessions. There's a lot going on at Shanghai. And as we do at the end of these episodes, we wanted to explain some of the jargon. And today I thought we could talk about engine penalties and various components that make up an F1 power unit and gearbox, right? So the current F1 power unit, it's in the hybrid era. It features several elements. First is the internal combustion engine. This is the main engine, like what you find inside a normal car, but way, way more powerful. It burns fuel to create power. Then you have the turbocharger. A turbo helps the engine breathe better by forcing more air inside, which means more power. Then you have the MGUH, or the motor generator unit, heat. What this does is capture the excess heat from the turbocharger and it converts it into electricity, which can be reused to boost power. Then you have the MGUK, which is the motor generator unit kinetic. This works like a regenerative braking in electric cars. So when the driver brakes, it stores all that lost energy and then releases it later for extra speed. Of course, all of this has to be saved somewhere. That's in the energy store. That's a battery that holds all the extra energy. And finally, you have the control electronics. This is sort of the brain of the power unit. It's making sure that everything runs efficiently.
And of these, the most important, of course, engines, turbochargers, and the MGUs. So, and over the season, a driver can use from a pool of only 4 of each. As with the power units, drivers have only, believe it or not, 5 gearboxes that can be swapped around during the season. And that's why you see a lot of penalties. So, only when a driver exceeds their allocation of either of the above components we just spoke about, they receive a grid penalty. So, here's the breakup. The first time an additional element is used, you get a 10-place grid. The next time an additional element is used, the driver gets a 5-place grid penalty. And if a driver incurs a penalty exceeding 15 grid places, they will be required to start the race from the back. Absolute back.
Yes. I remember, I think in Spa last year, Yuki had to pick up new gearbox, new power unit, new, I don't know how many things. And, if you counted all of that together, it was some 60-place grid penalty. Everyone else is starting in Spa, Yuki will start in Zandvoort. It was insane. So, a few years ago, the drivers could actually amass huge engine penalties for a Grand Prix. And Jenson Button currently holds the record for a 70-place grid penalty for the 2015 Mexican Grand Prix.
Where did he start from?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone else is in Mexico. Jenson will start in India. So, grid penalties are sometimes taken out of necessity. if a team is afraid that their driver might not finish the next race, either because they had a crash in a prior event or the engine is reaching the end of its life, then they might take the grid penalty in advance. They also plan their engine allocations over the season, meaning that they'll try to take these grid penalties in races where they think overtaking is easier, so that the drivers get a fighting chance. For example, you'd rather take a penalty at Monza because there's so many straights that can help you catch up even if you're starting at the back. Like, you wouldn't take a grid penalty in Monaco because you cannot overtake at all.
It's an absolute waste. And historically, you've seen people change their, power units or engine components, right, before Monza and take the hit because it's a complete straight line, it's a flat out circuit, right?
Yes.
So, that explains why. And now you know.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I think Ollie Behrman might be one of the first people to take a gearbox penalty very, very soon because of his state in Melbourne. Poor thing. What a bad start for him. But it's fine. He did so well in Jeddah last year. I think the pressure got to him a little bit. But kudos to the Haas engineers to, put that thing back together as quickly as they possibly could.
Correct.
So
let's just hope he takes it as a good omen and not a bad one.
Yeah, or maybe for him it's just like, okay, first race Nazar is gone.
Yeah, exactly. The Kala Tika of all Kala Tikas. So.
Yeah, exactly. So he should be good to go from now on.
Yeah.
But that is a wrap on the Chinese Grand Prix from the track's history, strategy, key terms, and race prep. Now you're all set to watch the second race of the season. But before we sign off, let's hear from Rahul. Rahul, what is your boldest prediction for the 2025 season?
Do you want me to go full wild or?
Absolutely crazy.
I'll go wild.
For it.
Williams challenging for the title.
Okay.
But maybe also a rookie that shocks us because this grid is full of rookies. There are so many this year, and we might even get chaotic rain-affected races like hint, global warming, where the usual suspects falter. Also, how stacked is this midfield this year? Like, it's incredible. Like,
I love it.
We're going to see some of those seriously unpredictable podiums this year. Netflix is going to have a home run with their content.
I swear.
But the corner of my heart, if Lewis, could get an 8th title before he retires, that would be a dream come true. But you know what? I'm not going to get ahead of myself.
You don't want to say it out loud, no? Just in case you jinx it. I know. A lot of people are hoping for that. But I don't know. So I saw this really interesting thing. So Alex Brundle, who does the commentary for F1 TV, he showed this really cool data. So I love data, right? So he showed this really cool telemetry thing where he was focusing on one corner in Australia, right? Where Lewis brakes versus how Charles brakes. And Lewis is really hitting hard on those brakes while Charles takes it very gradually.
Yeah.
So you can see that Lewis is still struggling to adapt, and it has a immediate repercussion on oversteer essentially. So because he brakes so hard, you can see that car struggling to sort of stay on track. But because Charles does it very gradually, the car listens to him.
Yeah.
And if that's going to be the case in corners, which is what F1 tracks are all about, especially when you get to the Silverstones and stuff like that, it is going to be a tough thing because Lewis, he's had 13 years in Mercedes, right? He's going to have to break out of that and not go into that muscle memory of how a Mercedes would react and shift over to the way the Ferrari reacts. So it's going to be a huge challenge for him. But
just like the rookies,
I'm not discounting
the learning curve is going to be brutal to Lewis, maybe with the Ferrari.
Yes.
And to your point, right? The braking styles, if I go as back as Schumacher, his unique braking style is the reason why he was where he was, right? The way he took corners, the way he braked so meticulously is the reason why it's very unique to him. So, when people say car versus driver, that's one example I always give avid F1 followers that, hey, just see the way he breaks those corners, see the way he takes those sharp turns, like on high speeds,
Right.
like that is unique. Like that's very, very big. So to your point, like Charles has probably ahead of the curve there with the Ferrari, but yeah, Lewis is going to take some time. And yeah, I mean, since we're talking about Schumacher, Ferrari, and Lewis, this is also, after many years, a Ferrari has a 7-time world champion on their grid after Schumacher.
That's true.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So, but
No, let's see. It's for the first time in a very long time that they have championship winning mentality. Forget everything else,
Yeah.
right? Someone who comes in who knows what it's like to
Yeah.
be that winner. I think they need that. They need to feel motivated. So it is, in a way, I see good things happening for them this year, but we shall see.
That's
we shall
true.
hold
That's
back
true.
and
Kala
yeah,
Chicas
exactly.
to Ferrari.
And historically, Ferrari brings all of their upgrades and they do well in the second half of the year. So maybe we may not, see that happening in the beginning, but you never know. Maybe towards the end, there's chances.
Fingers crossed. That's all that I would say.
To our amazing listeners, what do you think? Drop your hot takes in the comments, send us a message, or tag us in your wildest predictions. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share F101 with friends because this community is just getting started. If you have any queries or you want to be a friend on the pod, please reach out to me on Instagram. The link is in the description. Thank you, Rahul, for your time. I have been your host, Nisha, and I'll see you on the next episode of F101 with Friends.